WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. First, the top stories. Human rights institutions across Africa raise alarm over shrinking civic space across the sub-region.
Indeed, one or two have been closed down within the sub-region, and others are even prevented from going to other fora.
Police in Nigeria dispersed #Free Nnamdi Kanu protesters with tear gas amidst ban on demonstrations.
Free Nnamdi Kanu now! 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 Free Nnamdi Kanu now!
Ghana tightens border security at Elubo amid reports of Ivorians fleeing pre-election tensions and severe flooding devastates communities in eastern Senegal. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. We'll begin the bulletin with news from the Gambia, where human rights institutions across the continent are raising alarm over the shrinking civic space in West Africa. The concerns were made during the 8th Regional Forum of the Network of African National Human Rights Institutions held in Banjul, the Gambia. The three-day meeting, which will conclude today, brought together stakeholders across the continent ahead of the 85th Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Sankli Janko was there and filed this report.
For 3 days, human rights defenders, civil society and state actors deliberated on issues central to democracy and good governance, including torture prevention, climate change, corruption, and rising concerns about the erosion of civic space across the continent. Joseph Whittle is the chairperson of Network of National Human Rights Institutions, NANRI.
The civic space is shrinking, and even the very existence of national human rights institutions is at stake. Indeed, one or two have been closed down within the sub-region, and others are even prevented from going to other fora.
Over the past 5 years, West Africa has experienced a wave of military takeovers in Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, all of which remain under military rule. The recent coup in Madagascar has added to growing regional concerns. The chairman of NANRI expressed deep concern over the trend, warning that it threatens democratic governance and weakens respect for constitutional order.
I'm very concerned when you see prevalence of unconstitutional coup d'etats taking place. We all get worried because as soon as there is emergency rule, you cannot have human rights existing.
As the African Commission prepares for its 85th Ordinary Session, its chairperson, Remy Ngoy Lumbo, underscored the urgent need for stronger institutional collaboration to enhance transparency and safeguard human rights across the continent. He also noted that the African Union continues to engage with military-led governments in the region.
The Commission is still continuing to engage with them, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, because the constitutive act of the African Union itself is saying that even if there is those kind of things in countries, the Commission should continue to engage with them as it's a matter of human rights.
With civic freedom increasingly under threat in several parts of the continent, participants hope the outcomes of this forum will help shape actionable policies and bring about meaningful change.
Sankli Janko filed that report. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, security operatives on Monday fired tear gas and gunshots to disperse protesters in Abuja, the capital, who were demanding the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Activists Omoyele Sowore led the march despite a court order and police warning. Protesters chanted, "Free Nnamdi Kanu now. It's our constitutional right to protest and don't tear gas us," before the police shots eventually dispersed them. The protest defied an interim injunction by the Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court of Nigeria. The order restricted demonstrations around the Aso Rock Villa, National Assembly, Force Headquarters, Court of Appeal, Eagle Square and Shehu Shagari Way. Police had warned groups to obey the order or face arrest. Digital evidence, they said, would track social media incitement. Here is Mr. Maxwell Okpara, one of the lawyers of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu.
We are not served to restrain us from the mention some places, Shagari Way, the mention Pegare Way, Court of Appeal side, Aso Villa, National Assembly and what have you. We have not seen the order anyway, so we decided to come to Bega, Potako side, to protest. So as you can see, we are doing our peaceful protest only for them to come and attack. and we learned that they have even arrested some persons. My annoyance is all this Mr. President, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is a product of protest. He was able to climb to that place because of the protest. We protested against Jonathan. And had it been that Jonathan refused to hand over power to let Mohamed Wadr, he wouldn't have been there today. So we protested. Even as an Adeko, he protested. Why should we now use the military, use the police to stop people from protesting?
Maxwell Akbar is one of the lawyers of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB Nnamdi Kanu.
This is the countdown to the 2025 presidential election in Côte d'Ivoire.
Welcome to the countdown to the 2025 presidential elections in Côte d'Ivoire. It's no longer news that over 8 million voters will be going to the polls on Saturday to choose their next president. The field of approved candidates has been narrowed down to 5 contenders, each presenting their vision for the nation amid rising expectations and mounting political tensions. In this edition of Newslink, we will begin with the profile of Simone Gbagbo, former First Lady and head of the Movement of Skilled Generations MGC, campaigning on social justice and national reconciliation. Let's join Christopher Tijo for more.
Born on June 20, 1949 in Musu, a small village located in Bonohua and the town of Grand Bassam, Simone Ehive Gbagbo comes from a large family and became a caretaker for her younger siblings at an early age. Trained in literature and linguistics, she worked as a teacher before turning to activism and unionism, advocating for multi-party democracy and the Ivorianization of school curricula. It was in this context that she met Laurent Gbagbo, the future president of Côte d'Ivoire, with whom she co-founded the Ivorian Popular Front, FPI. Elected as a member of parliament for Abobo in 1955, she became the vice president of the National Assembly and chaired the FPI parliamentary group, quickly establishing herself as a determined and influential politician. Laurent Gbagbo became president in 2000. Simone Ehive Gbagbo did not settle for the traditional role of First Lady. She actively participated in political decision-making, supported youth and women, and built a network that gave her real influence, something described as that of an iron lady. Her path has not been without hardship. After the post-electoral crisis in 2010, she was arrested alongside her husband, detained, tried and sentenced to 20 years in prison for undermining state authority before being released in 2018 under an amnesty law. Today, independent and estranged from Laurent Gbagbo, she leads the Movement of Capable Generations, MGC, and has entered the 2025 presidential race, promising a platform rooted in social democracy and social justice. Throughout her career, she has passionately defended national sovereignty, social justice, and women's rights. Her commitment has often placed her at the heart of the country's political crisis, yet she has never ceased to stand by her convictions. For her supporters, she embodies perseverance, resistance, and determination. For her critics, she remained a controversial yet unignorable figure. Still active in public debate, Simone Gbagbo continues to exert influence on the political scene, reminding everyone that behind the image of the First Lady stands a grassroots politician capable of asserting herself in a world still largely dominated by men. Beyond politics, Simone Gbagbo is known for her dedication to youth empowerment and the promotion of women's rights. Her journey reflects both the complexities of Côte d'Ivoire's recent history and the strength of a woman determined to shape her country's destiny. Now 75 years old and serving as president of the MGC, Movement of Capable Generations, Simone Ehive Gbagbo presents herself as a symbol of struggle and political endurance, firmly committed to transforming Ivorian society. A candidate in the presidential election of October 25, 2025, she aims to champion a vision of social justice, economic independence, and the restoration of national values. drawing on her political experience, spiritual convictions, and resilience.
Christopher Teacher profiling and Simone Gbagbo, former First Lady and head of the Movement of Skilled Generations, MGC. Do join us in our subsequent bulletin for more profiles of candidates. In the meantime, campaign for the October 25 presidential election is gathering pace, with candidates intensifying efforts to win voter support. Ndivo, our HDP campaign director and Kumasi MP, Ajaratu Traore Coulibaly, who also leads the PE Ado movement, praised President Alassane Ouattara as the heir and builder of the new republic. Meanwhile, in Paris, supporters of presidential candidate Ahua Don Melo held a major rally of the European diaspora. Movement leaders, including Kore Musa, Michel Magnon, and Victor Achi, urged Ivorians abroad to back Don Melo, whom they describe as the best choice for inclusive development. 5 candidates are contesting the October 25 poll, including incumbent President Alassane Ouattara, former First Lady Simone Gbagbo, Ahua Don Melo, Jean-Louis Billon, and Henriette Lago. Now, since coming to power in 2011, Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara has made economic recovery one of his major objectives. Today, the country is recording GDP growth of 6.5%. This growth is driven by the agricultural sector, with record cocoa production, of which the country is the world's leading producer. An update on agricultural performance under Ouattara with Abdullahi Hassan.
Agriculture is one of the driving sectors of the Ivorian economy. Over the past 5 years, record productions of coffee and cocoa have been recorded, more than 40% of the global production, representing over 2 million tons and 14% of the GDP of this West African country. C. Kambo is president of the Federation of Coffee Cocoa Producers.
This is a positive assessment. When you look at the entire agricultural sector today, I can say that there is stability. Whether in the coffee cocoa sector, there is stability. Whether in the equivalent value-added cocoa sector, there is stability. In the palm sector, there is stability. In the NACA sector, there is stability. Things have clearly improved. We're below 30%. Now, we're talking about over 50% of cocoa and coffee processing as well.
According to the Ivorian government, these crops provide over 1 million jobs and sustain the livelihoods of more than 5 million people. This strong performance has been boosted by the recent construction of a processing center just a few months before the launch of the 2025 Coffee Cocoa campaign, whose prices were set by the President of the Republic, Alassane Ouattara.
Thanks to our ongoing efforts, we have become the world's leading cocoa grinders. I am announcing that for the 2025 and 2026 marketing year, the guaranteed prime price for well-dried cocoa is set at 2,800 francs per kilogram. The price for coffee is 1,700 francs per kilogram.
A record that does not satisfy the opposition, which laments the lack of attention given to certain subsectors of agriculture. Ahua Don Melo is independent candidate in the 2025 presidential election.
The agricultural sector has been a colonial economy for several years. The sector has been ignored. We must therefore rethink our agriculture. But we observe that we have a rural economy that is difficult to modernize under current conditions, especially since the 200,000 rural roads that connect villages to plantations are impassable in all seasons. This means that farmers can produce bananas, onions, tomatoes, and all this, given the impracticality of our infrastructure, all these products can rot.
Another challenge to be addressed to make the Ivorian agriculture sector more attractive is climate change, says C. Kambo, president of the Federation of Coffee Cocoa Producers.
We must first address the productivity problem and then adapt our farming system or our seeds to improve research so that seeds are adapted to climate change. So the problem of climate change threatens the sector, which must be said, and there is a productivity problem.
With growth projected at 6.5% in 2025, the Ivorian economy is supported by a strong agricultural sector, but also by the hydrocarbon industry, particularly through the exploitation of the Baleine oil and gas field, a world-class deposit located about 70 kilometers off the coast of Abidjan.
That was Abdullah Hassan with the update on the agriculture performance under President Ouattara. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Human rights institutions across Africa raise alarm over shrinking civic space across West Africa. Police in Nigeria dispersed #FreeNamdi protesters with tear gas amidst ban on demonstrations. Ghana tightens border security at Elubo amid report of Ivorians fleeing pre-election tensions. That the other half on the news. And severe flooding devastates communities in eastern Senegal. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube and Facebook. Let's turn our attention now to Ghana, where authorities have intensified security along the Elubo border with the western region following report of an influx of more than 1,500 Ivorians fleeing election-related violence in Côte d'Ivoire. The move comes amid growing concerns over potential instability ahead of the neighboring country's October 25 general election. Nadi Tete reports.
Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson has directed security officers stationed at the Elubo border to remain on high alert as the influx of Ivorians fleeing tensions ahead of Côte d'Ivoire's general election continues to rise. Mr. Nelson, who visited the Ghana-Côte d'Ivoire border to assess the situation, urged officers to be vigilant and monitor all entries closely to prevent potential criminal infiltration. He noted that the situation remains fluid and cautioned that more Ivorians may seek refuge as the election draws closer. Deputy Commissioner of Immigration at the Elubo Command, DCI Joshua Kraku, said distinguishing between regular travelers and asylum seekers has become increasingly difficult. He explained that while many Ivorians are leaving the country as a precautionary measure, they often enter Ghana as ordinary travelers before later seeking asylum at refugee camps. DCI Kraku added that the numbers are steadily rising, though there has not yet been a mass movement of people visibly fleeing across the border. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
And back in Senegal, floods have once again caused extensive damage this year. In the Bakel department, located in the eastern part of the country, heavy rainfall and the overflowing of the Senegal River have severely impacted local communities. Thousands of residents have been displaced, prompting the authorities to activate an emergency response plan to provide relief and support. Dauda Sena, the prefect of the Bakel department, spoke to Demba Ma'an on the situation.
As
of October 5, the water level at the Bakel reference station has risen to 11.29 meters, well above the alert level of 10 meters. This caused extensive flooding across all low-lying areas along the river. Authorities reported significant damage, with assessment identifying 946 hectares of farmland submerged, 249 families and 7 localities affected, amounting to 3,927 people impacted in total. Among the victims, 178 families were displaced. Of these, 27 families were sheltered in school buildings, while the rest found refuge with relatives.
Prefect of the Bakel department, Dauda Sena.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We head back now to Abuja as we join Usman Mara for the newspaper review.
Hello and welcome to the press review today from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Today, all major newspapers report that Nigeria is making a major push into the digital economy by tying renewable energy investment to its technological transformation. According to a report in the Punch newspaper, investors are eyeing a 2,500 megawatt data center opportunity across Africa, driven by the artificial intelligence boom and Nigeria's ambition to become a tech hub. Turning to export logistics, the Guardian newspaper flags significant discontent at Nigeria's Onne port in Rivers State, that is in south region of the country, where freight forwarders are protesting a new call-up charge of 35,000 naira. That is about $23 per export container, they say, An additional fee of 15,000 naira plus VAT, that is value-added tax, approximately about $10 is also being charged, imposing unexpected burdens on exporters. Now, in the political and governance sphere, the Vanguard newspaper reports that Nigeria has deported 51 foreign nationals, 50 Chinese and 1 Tunisian, convicted of cyber terrorism and internet fraud in Lagos. From the legal governance beat, the Guardian newspaper also carries a story of 3 police officers in Imo State, that is in the southeast region, who have been charged over alleged membership of a cult group called Vikings. Now, finally, security forces in Abuja, that is Nigeria's capital, have dispersed the hashtag Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protesters. That's a wrap on this edition of Press Review as I hand you back to the studios.
Many thanks, Usman Umar, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, we'll turn our attention to human rights and governance across the continent. As democratic systems evolve, the role of human rights institutions has become even more crucial, from ensuring accountability to protecting citizens' fundamental freedoms. Joining us for this conversation is Mr. Joseph Wadr, chairperson of the Network of National Human Rights Institutions, NANRI. He also serves as the commissioner of the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice in Ghana. Mr. Wadr has been at the forefront of regional advocacy, working to strengthen national human rights bodies and promote compliance with international standards. He is concerned about the shrinking civic space across the sub-region.
For NANRI, what is important is to build the capacity of our national human rights institutions, who will undertake the burden of working at a national level, dealing with state authorities who are involved in the issues you just mentioned, to ensure that the states do not create situations where torture and deprivations occur. When they occur, they will raise them up at the levels of either their parliament or beyond parliament, hold them accountable at the level of the African Commission, where they have audience and where they can present their shadow reports. And then beyond that, to the UN level, where they can also again send their shadow reports and critique what is happening locally. That will give the opportunity for the peers of the country concerned to go ahead and be subjected by its peers whenever there's a meeting at the African Union level or at the UN level, at the General Assembly.
What role can national human rights institutions in Africa in preventing torture and promoting justice? Regions experiencing political stability and military rule, for example, in sub-Saharan Africa, in West Africa in particular.
Well, I'll take it from a practical point of view. We have a situation in Africa, particularly in this West Africa sub-region, where military rule has reasserted itself. And as a result, the civic space is shrinking, and even the very existence of national human rights institutions is at stake. Indeed, 1 or 2 have been closed down within the sub-region, and others are even prevented from going to other fora because of the ECOWAS regional issue and the Sahel. So what NANRI is doing is to engage state authorities, to let them appreciate that human rights work transcends politics.
Are you concerned? You've just mentioned that if civic space is shrinking because we've seen, the increase in constitutional authority. We've seen also in Madagascar, for example, where a coup recently happened. Are you concerned that this could actually continue in the sub-region, for example?
I'm very concerned because democracy is facing a pushback, not only in Africa, but globally. You can even see in established democracies like the US, Europe, there are issues of the democratic practice being under attack. And so when you see prevalence of unconstitutional coup d'etats taking place, and of course the Madagascar one that has just been mentioned, we all get worried because if you are not careful, what normally suffers first of all when there is unconstitutional rule is human rights is taken away. Because as soon as there is emergency rule, you cannot have human rights existing.
What can national human rights institutions in Africa actually play in preventing torture and injustice, particularly, again, in the sub-region where you have instability and military rule, because countries like, for example, in Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, we've seen people being allegedly tortured, even disappearance. What can institutions like yours play in preventing such issues?
You see, torture is prohibited. Under any circumstance, no country has a duty or the responsibility of subjecting its citizens to torture. Even if it's a military government, it's something that we are asserting. We are doing that through a number of mechanisms. We work through the UN and African Union Commission reps on African prevention of detention and torture system. There are rapporteurs to that effect. The UN system is also there. And the NARI, working through its NHRIs at a local level, is able to gather data as to who is being tortured, what is happening to them, and highlighting the issue. Once you highlight, the state will have the duty to ensure that the practice is stopped.
Mr. Joseph Whittle, chairperson of the Network of National Human Rights Institutions, NARI, speaking there. And for Sport News, Christopher Tito joins me for the latest update. Chris.
Emo, good news and then a sad news in the world of sports.
Let's start with the good news.
With the good news, okay. So the good news is that Morocco joins Ghana to be the second team to win the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. So the Moroccan Under-20 national team defeated Argentina 2 goals yesterday to be the second African team. And 2 goals by Yasser Saberi gave the Atlas clubs the opportunity to win the Under-20 tournament. And Morocco actually defeated Spain, Brazil, South Korea, the United States, and France in their journey to clinch the ultimate trophy.
Congratulations to them.
Definitely. And the sad news is that a Senegalese goalkeeper, Cheikh Touré, has reportedly been found dead in Ghana, according to the country's Foreign Affairs Ministry. And a plenary investigation suggests that Touré may have fallen victim of a criminal network involved in scams and extortions of funds, though the exact circumstances surrounding his death remain unclear. In a statement, the ministry confirmed that the Senegalese embassy in Accra has verified the incident and that the goalkeeper's body has been deposited at the Ebenezer Tafo Morgue in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. And the embassy has dispatched 2 representatives to Kumasi to assist local authorities with administrative and judicial procedures, as well as to coordinate with Touré's family for the repatriation of his body once authorization is granted.
Indeed, our condolences to the family of that late goalkeeper. Many thanks, Chris, for the sport update. And that's it on this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Fali Lusso and Ismaila Kamara for the support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, TikTok, Instagram, at WADR English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of our flagship health program, Well Buddy. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.